Hello and welcome, my beautiful soul brothers and soul sisters. Welcome to Soul Ascension Spiritual Center podcast. I am here today and I'm super excited. I'm here today with Gordon Xavier. Welcome, Gordon.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So, just to say a little bit about us, we here at Soul Ascension are dedicated to assisting in the raising of consciousness. And we want to do that by providing information, teachings, anything inspirational, relatable stories to assist you in ascending to your greatest potential. So I would say today, Gordon, we are going to be dealing with matters of the heart.
Yeah.
So Gordon is a good friend of mine, and I have to start off with something.
Yeah.
So
bring it. Let's go.
Wasn't planning on this, but last night I see this video on Facebook that Gordon is saying, "Are you on the come up?" And in this video, he is talking about knowing that he's on the come up because of the people you had surrounded yourself with. And this just really touched me on a lot of different levels. But for one reason, because we need to acknowledge our progress.
Yeah.
And there are going to be markers that show us how we're progressing.
Yeah.
And what I loved about what you said was you found yourself surrounded by superstars. And it just really touched me because I thought, I don't know who says it, but they say you're most like the 5 people that you hang out with the most.
Yeah.
And so, but it really touched me because I started thinking about, you said you hadn't always found yourself surrounded. I mean, you probably always around really cool people, but just to find yourself surrounded by people who are dedicated to their journey is how I would put it.
Yeah.
And so when we met you a little over a year ago, maybe?
Yeah. Time.
I know. But we just instantly knew we were soul family.
Yeah.
And that we are all on this journey. We are working on our stuff. We're dedicated. You should see the conversations that we have. And so anyway, that video just really touched me. And I put it on our Facebook page, Soul Ascension's Facebook page and group. So, okay, so moving forward, yes, that just got me really excited because I do feel like I am surrounded by the most amazing people.
Yeah,
and you're one of them.
Yeah, I appreciate
You're one
it.
of them.
Yeah, and that was definitely one of those videos where, I was doing some reflecting and then that just came to me. I was like, man, look at all the people that I'm connected with right now. And one principle I know in life is that I attract what I am. And so for me to see all this like beauty around me, all these amazing people, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I must have come a long way. Like this is what I'm attracting now, and so
it's just, and it's acknowledging self-love
yeah.
and all the work and dedication that you have put into becoming who you are now.
Yeah.
So I thought that was so cool.
Awesome.
Okay, so I asked Gordon to do this video because Gordon, you lost your mother at a very young age, at 7 years old, which actually etherically is a very significant age because the mother etheric bond with the child ends at 7, and then you're kind of on your own.
Wow.
So I don't know if you knew that, but that is a very significant age.
Wow.
And I wanted, because you have been going through such an amazing transformation around this, and you've been sharing it with us, and I really wanted you to share it with the world.
Yeah.
So just to start, I wanted you to let us know what happened, how you lost your mother, what caused her to transition.
Yeah. It was a really rough time, man. So my mom, growing up, she had, I don't know the full story either. It's still a good amount of that is still somewhat in the shadows for me. Possibly because a good portion of me never really went to seek answers. Kind of like just pushed it away. But as I got older, I was able to kind of acknowledge and, recognize that this is something in me that needs to be healed and addressed. And so, talking to my dad, she had cervical cancer.
Okay.
And she spent a lot of time, working with her weight. Early when I was young, she, there'd be times where she was really, healthy, and then there was times where she kind of like, got a little bit bigger. And I'm sure that kind of had an effect on the health. And I remember her doing Weight Watchers and stuff, and she was able to, shed all this weight, and she was able to, she was really transforming herself, and but still, I guess something was lingering. I don't know what. There's maybe mentally, emotionally, but it led to her, battling with cervical cancer for a couple of years.
Okay.
And even when I was younger, I had no idea that she had cervical cancer. Like,
Really?
yeah, it was. It wasn't until like she was sick that I was like,
That it became really apparent.
it became apparent. Yeah.
Okay.
And so.
So do you think that she was trying to keep up appearances for you?
Um, and a part of me, I was so young. I was young, so a lot of it is very in the shadows. Like it's in those like further back memories.
Right, right.
But probably. I think her and my dad were probably keeping it, not like advertising it or
Right,
anything.
not like
Especially
you're
because I
having
was
to
young.
live that all the time.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a good amount of her and him that wanted me to just be with her and and experience her versus worry for her but a part of me is like, dang, you should have told me so I could have really cherished that time, but a little young mind, you don't know what the little brain will be thinking
Right, right.
when confronting that stuff.
Do you feel like you were really close to your mother?
Yeah, for sure. Growing up, my dad would work a lot, and so a lot of the time I would spend the nights with her, and of course, being a little kid with moms, and there would be as a child, you don't want those limitations placed upon you. So I want to do this and do that and do that, and she wouldn't have it, what I mean? But she loved me, man. And so I remember one of the memories that stands out to me the most was one night we were going to sleep, and she we were laying in the bed, and there was a pillow, and the pillow was like getting hot. And so I was like, I want to switch it. I want the cool side. She's like, you like the cool side, me too. And she was just, just I don't know why she got so excited about that, but she was just excited, and she just loved me, So.
And I think that sometimes it's those simple moments that we remember the most.
Yeah.
It's not like the big fancy vacations, but just those moments where we really connect with somebody.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
So when she passed, do you remember the environment that you were surrounded with as far as people emotionally, family members, your own feelings?
Yeah, I remember. See, what's crazy is my grandma, was talking to her about it maybe like a month ago, and she said that I saw her the night before she died. I have no memory of visiting her in the hospital, and seeing her that night and hugging on her, and I have no memory whatsoever of that. But I have memory of the next day when my dad told me that she died.
Isn't that interesting, the way the mind works?
Yeah.
Especially around trauma.
Yeah. Wow. That's I never realized that until now. So like a lot of the stuff you're asking me like are probably gonna like I can already feel emotion. Because there's never been questions really asked about my experience with all that, and so I appreciate this. But that's crazy. I don't remember anything about that night of me visiting her, but the next day I remember my dad walking into my room, shutting the door, and telling me that she passed, and I kind of just didn't react. I just didn't. I don't remember having an emotion. I just kind of like he hugged me, and I kind of just didn't process it. And then I processed, my uncles came with him and told my grandma, who was staying with us to help, told her in the other room, and she just like lost it. And I remember her like crying and screaming and stuff. And
so do you think that maybe had more of an effect on you, seeing somebody else's emotion around it than
for sure.
Even because I think that it's pretty common we distance ourselves from something that is painful.
Yeah.
But it's harder when you see it in front of you than to pull your own emotions away, which is, I think, a big part of your story.
Yeah.
That you went, I mean, Gordon and I have talked about this, but having gone years and years without really processing this huge emotional thing that you went through, losing a parent, And so, how do you feel like that colored your life moving forward? And even if you want to delve into your family, like how
Yeah.
they dealt with it and how they dealt with you dealing with it.
Mm. Yeah, that's a long
It's a lot.
conversation. Yeah. I'll start with the family. You know, it definitely rocked my family. You know what I mean? Like it, as you know, a lot of like deaths in families do. It rocked my family. You know, my mom was kind of like the glue between at least me, my dad, and her side of the family. You know, and so when she passed, um, Christmases kind of stopped happening. You know, like
Mm.
where my uncles would come in town and I would see my cousins and we would all go over there and have Christmas together and New Year's, and that just stopped happening.
And that's significant, especially
Yeah.
to a child.
Yeah, and those were the best memories, man. I remember, like, you know, I was a kid, me and my cousin, we used to, my cousin Colin, we would perform the NSYNC for the family,
Oh,
like do like a
nice.
little, like, ba, 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 you know, and we doing the dance and stuff, and, you know, it's us two up there performing for the whole family, and so that's how the family was close, and when she passed, it kind of just stopped happening, and
And you registered that.
not until years later.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't until years later where I recognized, like, huh, that kind of just faded away.
Okay.
Yeah, and um, I mean, everybody was rocked. You know, my grandma. You know, still to this day, I'm sure she thinks about it every single day. You know, like every single day. It's not a day go by. Same thing with my dad. You know, and I think those two, at least in my, you know, immediate connections, are people that are like still to this day, I think emotionally, really still healing. And probably some of the pain has like been pushed off to the shadows and it's rotting there, you know, versus like
Yes.
looked at and really talked about it, felt through and finished off, you know.
And it had probably the added difficulty that she was young. How old was she when she passed?
She was 33.
So that's young.
Yeah.
And I think that we kind of logically say, well, if somebody is elderly and they pass, they've had their whole lifetime, and there's a bit of acceptance that can come with that. But I do think it's harder when it's a child or somebody who is younger to really process all of that. And so that has been your journey. Like, I think you went years and really didn't think a lot about it. Is that correct from what
Yeah.
you've told me?
Yeah, for sure. I moved on. I remember even in second grade when they called me to the office, and I think what happened was when they called me to the office, they went to go tell my class that I just lost a parent, and I came back to the class, and I can kind of peep. I was like, oh, they were talking about me when I left. I can tell, and everybody's kind of like looking at me like, holy crap, and I was like, what? You know, like I was like looking around like, what? Like everything's fine, you know, and
Do you think that was modeled to you?
hmm. I don't know. Possibly. My dad, I know I saw my dad cry about it once, and that was like a funeral.
One time.
Yeah.
Wow. Did he ever talk to you about it?
Never. I don't have many memories of having conversations about it.
So do you feel like, in a sense, since the grown-ups in your life weren't necessarily, and we understand this because we're not taught how to deal with these emotions.
Yeah.
We're taught to push them away. That's very typical, and just get on and survive. Just keep going, keep going. So, so it's almost like we come into this life and we just pick up on that,
Yeah.
unless somebody actively steps in
Yeah.
and talks to us and helps us through it. And so then you went years and years holding all of this and not really processing it, not really releasing those emotions.
Yeah.
And the thing about Gordon is you have such a big heart. I mean, you have access to this amazing heart. One thing I love about you that I have told you is that I think you have a beautiful balance between the masculine and feminine energy within you.
Mm-hmm.
And so this had to have been just sitting there waiting to be addressed.
Yeah.
Could you feel that it was there all the time?
Unconsciously. It wasn't until this year that I was able to like identify, oh, that's what all that was all these years, you know? Like, I think the pain, it manifested as anxiety.
Okay.
You know, it manifested as social uncomfortableness, you
Okay.
know. It manifested as insecurity, like not feeling safe.
So was it like a deep rooted fear of loss, of the rug being pulled out from under your feet type of a thing?
Probably a little bit of that. I know that as time went on, what happened was I started seeking her love unconsciously, and I started doing things in healthy and very unhealthy ways of trying to recreate her love. You know, like addictions and
Interesting.
you know, even attention seeking. Like I think unconsciously, even me starting YouTube and making videos was a byproduct of me trying to be the hero for other people that I needed for myself unconsciously, and also for me like to be loved from other people, and trying to recreate that love, which was impossible. You know, it didn't matter how many followers or subscribers I would ever get. You know, it wouldn't match up to that mom's love. You know.
It's amazing awareness that you have, and I know it took you a while to get to that awareness.
Yeah.
But the other thing that highlights to me is how incredible humans are.
Yeah.
Because even though you weren't able to consciously process it, you were still finding ways to bring it up
Yeah.
into the light,
Yeah.
even if it felt like unhealthy ways. Because that's how, I mean, if we're not taught healthy ways, we go into unhealthy ways. But you know what? You usually get there in the end.
Yeah.
Because those unhealthy ways start showing you things
Yeah.
that you have to pay attention to.
Yeah.
And I think that probably happened to you.
Yeah.
Was getting your attention.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, you're on your journey with all of this. And I think that what was so significant was you going down to Florida.
Yeah.
And doing Sabato.
Yeah.
So you should spell that for us, because I don't think I even say it right.
Yeah. So, Savatove, Savatove.
Okay.
It's and so what Savatove was, it was a spiritually based transformational seminar, and it revolved all around communication with others, communication with the self, and you know, maximizing that, learning how to listen, learning how to be present. And so there was a lot of time that we spent learning how to listen to other people, but in learning how to listen to other people, I think I grasped tools to learn how to listen to myself.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and it was, and also the people around me. I came with my cousin Alan, you know, who's really close to me. Already knows my story, my past, you know, knows my demons and stuff. And so, for us to go there and learn these tools, and for them to point out many aspects of ourselves that were like unhealthy, you know, they were able to shine light, awareness onto like bad habits.
Or compensations.
Yeah,
Is that another way to
compensations.
put it?
Yeah, perfect. Compensations, like, you know, compensating, using depression to compensate for, like, using depression as pretty much like a tool to not go, to not
escape.
Yeah, and to not confront.
Not confront. Yes.
I was like utilizing depression to not confront. Like it was, you know, some people think like, oh, I'm depressed and I'm diagnosed with depression, but in reality, depression was a tool a story that I would create and manifest so that I wouldn't confront my demons. And so they pointed that kind of stuff out.
And you had gone through this last year, actually. You had gone through a period of time.
Yeah.
And we've all gone through depression. So I think that it is so helpful to hear other people's stories around it. Because when you're in it, you feel like you're alone.
Yeah.
You feel like you're the only one who's having your thoughts and who's dealing with your struggles, and you feel like a loser. You feel like you're not part of society. And so to really be able to highlight it is a process. That is part of the process oftentimes.
Yeah, it is. It's, you know, I mean, I'm so grateful for that depression I went through, because once again, it showed me myself. It led to me recognizing something's not right. And there's something I'm not aware of, but something needs to be addressed. And so it led all the way back to Savatove. And, you know, I go say my cousin Alan, he knows my story and all the stuff I've been through. And so when these things were shown to me and we were talking about them, it occurred because he was able to listen properly. I was able to listen properly. We were able to kind of like communicate better because of the tools they gave us. And it led to me like realizing, holy crap, my mom died. And he kind of pointed that out. And I was like, what are you talking about? I was almost like, what are you talking about? I'm like, oh, she did, you know, and then through proper listening, it pulled out a lot of stuff. And so that communication with the self and others through listening properly has changed my life. And it brought up a lot of that stuff.
So it makes me think of an integration that occurred, because I think so often in trauma we compartmentalize those feelings and tuck them away.
Yeah.
And then we end up doing that so often that we are compartmentalized, or I guess you could say we have multiple personalities in a way, because we have taken our inner child, or whatever you want to call it, and we've said, okay, you sit over here, and I'm not dealing with you, and they're not integrated.
Yeah.
And it's like they need it to be acknowledged and brought back in. And I feel like that was a process that you went through there.
You literally just nailed it on the head. The little boy in me was all, you know, it's funny, as I grew up, 22, 23, 24, you know, I'm a man at that age, right? But inside, I identified as a little boy. I felt like I would be around other men and I would feel like a little boy, inferior to those men. And I never even acknowledged it or even knew why. But it's because the little boy in me was so hurt that, and because he was holding on to hurt, he was still very alive in me. And he never grew up and integrated with the physiological change of me becoming a man. He never went with that. He's like, nah, hold on, wait a minute. We still have some stuff to talk about.
Okay,
you know?
so I've heard that at the age of the trauma, there's an aspect of you that stays stuck there at that precise age.
Yeah, at 7. So a part of me, you know, was 7, you know, and so when, like you were saying, the little boy, you know, and all that stuff you said, you know, so now that I have tools of listen, and people, my cousin Alan and, you know, some other friends that I made there had tools of listen, the little boy got heard. You know, the little boy got heard, and when these things came up, I mean, I cried. I cried and cried and cried for like a good 2 hours, like years of tears, and I mean, hyperventilating and snot and like ugly crying. You know, I can almost feel it wanting to come up. You know, because you know, it was all, you know, repressed. But through listening to the little boy, he got to be heard. He got to be acknowledged. He got to cry. He got to be held, and that's all he wanted. You know, and so he finished processing that grief. There was grief that was never processed. So there was this lower, dense, heavy vibration of grief I was carrying with me all my life.
And it was so acclimated. Like you probably didn't even know it was there.
Didn't even notice. It was in the back of them. It was in the back, in the blind spots, you know, and it got good at disguising itself as other energies, you know.
Right.
And, but here's an interesting thing. After I moved through that process of grief, for the first time, I felt angry about her dying. Wow. You know, I've never felt angry, but that sadness and grief, once that process was, it went through, then a bit of a lighter, higher vibration, which is anger, came out. And I wanted to punch through a wall. I felt pissed off that she left. I'm like, why'd you leave me? You know, like, I didn't even know that was in me. I had no idea that was in me, like, mad at her for dying. Like,
like that's almost not even allowed in a way.
Yeah.
You know, because we put that person on a pedestal. So how could we ever be angry at them?
Right.
Yet that is the emotional scale that and sometimes we skip parts of it. Just depends on what your process is. But that's so important to be able to acknowledge any step that wants to come through.
Yeah.
And what I think is so beautiful is that you found yourself supported.
Yeah.
Because you had to become vulnerable.
Yeah.
Which is actually something I really love about you, Gordon, because I see you do it all the time. Gordon puts out, and we're going to talk about this at the end, but Gordon puts out tons of videos on his YouTube page. 28,000 followers at this point.
Yeah, it's been close. Yeah.
You're such a charismatic figure, the way you convey and communicate. You really open your heart and you lay it out there for us. Yeah. So it's just, and it takes courage. but you had a level even deeper than that you had to open up to.
Yeah.
And finding that support, I think, was so amazing and beautiful. And you created that. You
Yeah.
went, you paid the money
Yeah.
to go do all of that.
Yeah. I think that rock bottom dynamic really, I mean, I've always had this urge to learn anyway, you know, like I've always had this, you know, urge to evolve, like even before I recognized like the pain of my mom, like I've been on this like path of, you know, maybe that's one of the ways that pain of my mom was leaking, me not feeling good enough. So I had to evolve, right? But it turned out to be kind of healthy, you know, and it wasn't always coming from that place, but I lost train of thought now. What did you say?
I'm just thinking what you just said, because I've heard from spiritual teachers, specifically a channel, Abraham Hicks, talks about how oftentimes people will pass young
Yeah.
to help teach something to those around them. And it sounds like for you, it took you a while to really get the lessons, but you're really getting them now.
Yeah.
And we talk about how everything, no matter how ugly or difficult or whatever, everything is an opportunity. And so, no, you would never have wished that upon yourself or even upon her, but there probably was great purpose in it. And I mean, just to think of probably how much more compassionate you are because you went through that.
Yeah.
And how it influenced you, not just negatively, but positively also.
Huge. It's led me to the realization, and this is such a powerful realization, because I think so many people can relate to this, but you know, pain, you know, going through pain. I look at pain as like, you know, especially in situations like that, if you would have like, you know, we're standing on solid ground, right? And that solid ground is my heart. Well, that pain, it digs a hole, and it digs a hole, and for me, with that kind of pain, it dug a crater. You know what I mean? And so, in a sense, that pain created space. But what happens is oftentimes when that pain isn't processed properly, it turns into resentment, sadness, grief that we fill that space with. And so, because I finished processing it, that pain, that sadness, that grief was removed from that hole. And because I looked there and acknowledged it, I can claim this space now. And so when I was like, you know, all this space that was created here, I'm like, I'm claiming this. Like this is my experience, this is my life. And so now I can consciously choose what I put in there. And so I chose to put love in there and compassion for myself, for my mom, for other people. And so in a sense, you know, my mom, you know, made a sacrifice. You know, in a sense, she's like an angel for me now, you know, and she, because of what she did and what happened, you know, she unlocked a mighty power in me, you know, like a super.
I believe it.
Yeah. And, you know, so as weird as it would be to say, but I'm grateful for her, you know, and in the time that I had her, I'm grateful for the time that, I'm grateful for her leaving, you know, and I'm grateful for her still being here, you know.
That was what I was gonna ask. You still feel her, don't you?
Oh yeah, like I'm literally made up of her. Like I like all my cells like were in her, you know what I mean? Like she carried me, and so I'm literally like made up of her, you know. So I can definitely see characteristics of her living on in me. Because I see my dad's in me, and so I all the ones that like that's not quite my pops. I'm like that's her.
So you're her legacy.
Yeah.
So beautiful,
Right.
Gordon. So we got to see you after you came back from Savatov. I don't know why I can't say that, but it's a tough one. Savatov.
Yeah.
We got to see you when you came back and hear about your transformation. And I would love for you to delve a bit more into that and what you experienced, because but before we go into that, just to say, because you acknowledged your pain. I mean, I know there was more to it than that, but you found a supportive way with people around you to go in and finally look at the pain that just wanted to be acknowledged.
Yeah.
And so releasing so much that you carried for so long. Just, I'm excited to hear about what you experienced afterwards.
Yeah, I felt an overwhelming amount of like peace. You know what I mean? Like, uh, and I felt even my connection with God go up because my ego had simmered down. Like my little boy, the little boy in me, I think represents also a big portion of my ego. Like some when we hear the word ego, I think a lot of people say like, oh, that person has a big ego, so they think they're they're conceited or arrogant. But sometimes having a big ego can be the opposite of like that person doesn't think they're worthy. Like whatever it is, or that person doesn't think they're worthy, that person thinks they're not beautiful or this or that. That's also having a big ego in the sense of making it about me, like making it about me, like, and so.
Well, and isn't it having that belief, that like deep-seated belief that the ego then has to come up and constantly be protecting you against?
Yeah, exactly. It's the yeah versus seeing the perfection in what God is placing in my life right here, right now. My ego chooses to filter that perfection out and make it about my own insecurities or my own pain. And so, in me addressing the little boy and releasing all that stuff, all that story, all that pain, I felt like a big portion of my ego was like, all right, well, I don't really have anything else to say.
Right.
So I'm gonna sit down, and then in that part of me sitting down, I felt like the spirit part of me is like able to come up, which is love, you know. And so it's like I experienced after Sabatov, love taking the wheel and my ego like in the passenger seat. And my ego's like, actually, bro, this is better. This is like way more fun with love, like, you know.
I don't have to be constantly vigilant in a way that I'm not really suited.
Yeah.
I mean, the ego really isn't suited to take care of us in an emotionally healthy, connected way.
Yeah.
You have a beautiful saying you came up with. Are you going to tell us that saying?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, it's so amazing.
So in just all that shadow work and experiencing all that stuff, what came to me and the realization was in life, whatever I conceal, it takes the wheel. And then whatever I reveal, I heal.
That's gold, man.
Yeah.
It needs to go on a t-shirt.
It needs to go on a t-shirt, yeah.
It does. I mean, we need to like have it on a banner. That is beautiful. That is beautiful. And it's so simple.
So
and
simple.
It's so true.
Yeah.
So you had some other effects come up also after releasing all of this. Do you want to share any of that?
Yeah, I mean, just, so when the ego stepped out of the way, right, so ego sometimes, I'll make it stand for edging God out.
I like that.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's good. Another good one. Another t-shirt.
Edging God out. And so when my ego was chilling and like kind of sit back down a little bit, I wasn't edging God out as much. And so in my experience, what that means is God was able to, I believe that God will only do for me in my life what God does through me, and so because my ego wasn't filtering all that out, God came through, or my higher self or love or a source or whatever, label people want to attach to this energy that animates us and provides. And, I felt it come through and speak through me, like in this really incredible way that it was almost like channeling, and I experienced myself for the first time. Like in the past, I've experienced like videos coming out of me that was like, dang, where'd that come from, but this was like obvious, like I don't know where it came from, but it was like, dang, that's deep.
So it was like pure and unfiltered.
Pure and unfiltered. And I felt my ego, like, so I was sitting back with some friends after Sabatov, and we were in the backyard kind of just talking about our experiences, and I felt this this expression wanting to come up, and my ego wanted to be like, oh no, but what if they don't want to hear this? They don't want to hear this. They don't want you to express yourself. My ego was trying to block it coming through. And because I knew how to listen to it now, and because it wasn't so powerful anymore, I was like, no, I trust that this coming up right now is perfect. I trust that however they react to this thing that I feel wanting to express itself, however they react is perfect. Whether it be they love it, whether they don't love it, whether they don't want to listen, regardless, I know that I'm a clear channel now. And so when it comes through, it comes through.
So you release judgment.
Yeah, of myself,
Of yourself.
and even judgment of other people judging me. Like
That is huge.
Yeah.
That is huge. And what I hear throughout this whole process is you remembering more of who you are and stepping more into your power, which we talk about all the time. Like our journey is about remembering ourselves on the soul level.
Yeah.
Because we come down here and we forget. And we get these opportunities to remember ourselves in new and expanded forms. And I just think your story attests to that beautifully. I see how you are able to take the guards off your heart even more and allow that energy to flow through so much clearer, and how you are able to soothe your ego and honor your ego at the same time, because we can't be judging our egos either.
Yeah.
So it's such a beautiful story, Gordon.
I appreciate it.
Is there anything else you would like to share about it?
I just I think in soothing the ego, in the shirt right here, if you look at this, it says, evolve. And you can't spell evolve without love. LOVE. It's like it's taking up the majority of the word evolve, And for me, just love has been a very big part of my own personal evolution. Loving myself, loving my experiences. And sometimes love doesn't look like me holding the experience, and be like, oh, sometimes love looks like me, wanting to, freak out and to throw a temper tantrum.
So allowing enough self-love for you to allow whatever needs to come up.
Being authentic, yeah. Being authentic.
Speaking of love, I love that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So it's that's kind of like the main thing I would leave with. It's just give love the wheel, and confront whatever you need to confront, but let love do it with you versus letting the anger or the fear doing it with you all the time. Like sometimes it's just like, okay, let me chill out, let me tap into love real quick, and then let me look at this. And for me, that's worked beautifully,
So you are now a life coach, as well as making these amazing videos. Gordon does life coaching, and I think anyone would be so lucky to work with you because you have such a warm capacity to you, and I know you know how to listen, and I know you know how to help people through their process. I mean, in huge part because you've had to go through your own.
Yeah.
That makes the best life coaches, and it's so relatable. And I would just encourage, as I'm sure you would, there is help out there. If there are things that you feel that you are suppressing, even if you're just struggling in your life, it's because there are things in there that need to be processed. Fears, traumas. And that's what, the work that we do, you making these videos is such a help. So you can go to Gordon Xavier on YouTube and find, I don't know how many videos you've made on all different subjects.
About 250 maybe.
And they're all really helpful. And they can find you on Facebook, Gordon Xavier. So it's Gordon, Gordon. We'll have it written down, but Xavier. And Instagram is the same.
Yeah, Gordon on Instagram is Gordon Xavier Vlogs.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah. Well,
you can go to GordonXavier.com for any like coaching inquiries, or if you want to get an Evolve shirt, represent the evolution and help support them. The movement. My goal is 1,000 Evolve shirts by the end of summer, and I want to have pictures of people all over the world in Evolve shirts to once again display that you're not alone on this evolutionary journey. Like, you're not the only one who wants a better life and who's willing to do what it takes.
And we are definitely here for each other.
Yeah.
And these are really cool shirts.
They're very fitted, if you can see. You know what
I
mean? Like, they fit. They're fitted. So nice material.
So go get yourself one.
Yeah.
And Gordon, thank you so much for opening your heart and just being vulnerable with us today and sharing your story.
Of course.
Really, really appreciate it. You know I love you.
You too. Thank you for holding the space for me to explore this stuff, because now I think I have I had some crying to go do. No.
Yeah.
I had some reflection to go
follow
do.
him with the camera. Get the Kleenexes.
Yeah, right.
And we're gonna have you on again, because you are doing so much right now, and you really are a superstar. And we definitely want to showcase that at Soul Ascension. And so this has been. I just really enjoyed interviewing you. Thank you again. And you know what I want to leave you all with is my saying that we all want to remember that I am you, you're me, we are love, and we are God. So until next time, guys, peace, and have a beautiful life, and remember to love yourselves.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a good one.
My only thing,
I was like crying.